Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's show is actually part 2 of a story I released a few days back entitled I Was Stabbed on Friday. And there's been an update, so let's get straight into that. First off, I want to apologise. I intended on having this posted way earlier. Thank you all for hanging on in there with me. Your advice and caring is helping me a lot. For those of you who are just joining, please check out part 1 of my story. It has been a hell of a day. Exhausted would be a drastic understatement. Luckily, my job is very understanding of the situation. They basically insisted that I take a few days off for recovery. So that takes a huge load off of my shoulders. I went to Lowe's and got a new bedroom door. Danny came back over and helped me install it, considering my left arm is useless at the moment. He asked about the old door and the smoking pile of ashes in my backyard. I honestly debated on telling him the entire thing, but decided to hold off. I didn't even know what was going on myself. Makes it kind of hard to explain to someone else, you know? Danny and I had been friends since we were kids, so he didn't pry much at my vague answers. We thought it would be best for Jenna to take the cats and stay at her sister's house. A few of you suggested it, and I really do appreciate the thoughts, but I was already way ahead of that. I needed to be able to focus, and I couldn't do that if she was around too. Danny and Matt both offered to crash on my couch, but I declined. They didn't need to miss work for me. I plopped down on my couch and turned on Netflix. I knew I wouldn't really watch, but I needed some background noise. It was still early, not even noon yet, so now I just had to wait for Gregor to call. I looked out of the window next to my couch. It overlooked a field, and in the distance there is a tree line that leads to about a mile of woods. My heart sank and my stomach lurched. You see, in the distance, right where the wood started and the field ended, I saw what looked like a man standing there, not moving, just looking at my home. I shot off the couch, a little too fast. My arm throbbed in response. I grunted and leaned into the window so I could get a better look. I could just make out the shape of a person. They were all in black, and although the sun was high in the sky, it was as if they were covered by some sort of shadow. I didn't move. I just leaned into the window on my knees, staring at the being. Then, my phone rang, causing me to jump and turn around. When I looked back, the figure was gone. I looked at the caller ID. It was Gregor. I answered it quickly. All I had been doing was waiting for this call. "Hello?" I said. "Nick, can you drive?" he asked. No formality. I noticed he sounded strange. "Yeah, I mean, I haven't tried yet, but it shouldn't be a problem. What's going on?" "Meet me at the Cauldron." "That's right down the road from me. I can just walk." I knew exactly where it was because I had made a mental note on wanting to check it out. "Fine, just hurry up, man." He hung up the phone. My heart was pounding, causing my arm to throb. I hadn't taken any of the pain medication the doctors gave me. You see, I didn't like the feeling of not being completely coherent. If anything, the pain was making me more aware. I went into my room and put on real clothes. As of then, my attire was strictly basketball shorts and, well, nothing else. I put on jeans and a t-shirt, tucking my .38 snub nose into my belt, and started walking. It was a short walk, but for some reason, I was taking in every single step. My mind was working in overtime just to make sure I was feeling this intense fear. Terror is a funny thing. A lot of people will never feel it in their entire life, and I'm jealous of them. Terror, real life terror, is unexplainable. It goes beyond an emotion. It becomes an actual physical feeling, like a weight on your body that you can't diagnose. Everything becomes more apparent in life because you're just waiting for something to happen. Imagine a choking feeling, but you hadn't eaten a thing in hours. It stalks you to the point where it almost drives you insane. I was terrified. The entire walk, I felt like someone was behind me. I lost count of the times I turned round with my hand on my hip. I was ready to draw and fire at a moment's notice. You see, getting stabbed must do that to you, I guess. But nothing happened. I opened the door to the Cauldron and a bell chimed, alerting the store that someone had walked in. It was dimly lit and somewhat barren. The shelves were covered in random trinkets. There was a lone woman behind the counter and she was reading an older book. I squinted. It was leather bound. As soon as I walked in, before the bells even chimed, she closed her eyes and looked up, like she felt me entering her safe zone. The small, frail-looking owner was about 5 feet tall and had weathered skin, curly white hair. I walked over to the glass counter she barely stood over. Her bright blue eyes almost looked right through me. "It's you," she said, not even trying to mutter or hide it from me. "Hi, I am Nick." "Yeah, I know who you are, Nick. Or did you not get that already? Call me Strips." The firecracker shot off at me. "You're wanted in the basement." She pointed over to the only other door in sight. The heavy wooden door opened audibly. I walked downstairs. The small damp room was just like the shop, almost empty, and I had no idea what to think of the cement walls. They held nothing. The only thing in view was an oval wooden table. The small portly man sitting at the head of the table looked like the male counterpart of the female I had just met. Gregor was sitting at the other end, directly across. "Nick, please take a seat." The small round man stood up and gestured to the table. I looked at Gregor and he nodded in approval. I sat down. "My name is Orion. I have heard about your predicament. Is there anything new you have to share before we started?" I told him, in my own words, what had been happening in the last few days, revealing for the first time that the being that was standing at the edge of the woods looking at my house. Orion had a small grin on his face, as if he knew of this and none of it was surprising to him. He offered me a glass of water. My mouth was so dry it almost hurt, so I sipped it. "I don't want to come as too much of a shock to you, but I know what is going on. You see, there is a creature that lives deep in the woods. It rarely shows its face. However, once in a blue moon, it demands life. Once it has that life, it demands it goes back into slumber and leaves the town alone. In the rare case it does not successfully claim that soul, it seeks right away. It torments its victim to the point of insanity." Orion took out 3 glasses and opened a large wooden hutch behind him. One of the only other things in the small room. Scanning the vast collection of bottles, he flicked one with his finger. The clank of glass rang out, and he pulled the bottle from the shelf. Pouring 3 glasses, he slid one to me and one to Gregor. I sipped it. It was the smoothest bourbon I had ever tasted. "How do you know all this?" I asked shakily. "The last time this son of a bitch came out of hiding was 15 years ago. It took my father who had been hunting it for years. I don't want to lose this opportunity because, to be frank, I don't know when or if I will get another one after this." He gestured to my empty glass and I handed it to him. He refilled it. "With the help of Gregor and my wife, I intend to murder the creature. I ask you, Nick, will you help me?" "Well, seeing as I don't really want to die, yes, I'll help you, Orion. Just tell me what I need to do." I stood up and so did the other 2. It is imperative that you trust me completely. Let's move upstairs. He held up the glass and we all took the shot together, and start of a team was born. We started walking upstairs. Gregor led the way, followed by Orion and lastly myself. The gnawing feeling of pure fear was still in the back of my head, and it was actually getting worse. It was almost like the creature knew that I had found a new reserve to fight. There was no way that I was letting this thing take me out so easily. I had been through too much in my life just to quit now. With the help of my new friends, I was actually starting to feel a little confident. The door to the shop had been closed and the sign flipped. Not that there would be any visitors anyway, but just in case. I started to have the inkling that this shop was just a headquarters for Orion to hunt this being. Here, put this on. Strips handed me a necklace. On the end of it was a very small vial. It was only big enough to hold a few drops of something vibrant and pink. I put it on. That is a few drops of the creature's blood while wearing it. If the creature is near you, you will feel it. It will only work for you, since you are the one it has chosen. To us, that is just a useless piece of jewelry, Orion said. So what, I just wear this, go home, and call you guys if it's close to me? I asked. Not quite, buddy. You just trust me, right? Gregor spoke up. He had been unusually quiet through the whole exchange. Yeah, of course, man. He led me back over to the basement door. This thing, it feeds off your distress. We need to bait it out. With that, Gregor pushed me and I stumbled down the stairs, landing on my back. It took me a second to realise what was going on. I grunted and propped myself up on my elbow, looking just in time to see the basement door slam in my face. I stood up and brushed myself off. I would have waited down here without you pushing me, arsehole. I was pissed off, scared, tired, hungry and thirsty. So, I did the only logical thing my head could process. I sat down at the table in a dark room. The only light being admitted was from a small basement window above me, and poured myself a drink. I took the gun out of my pants and set it on the table, followed by my phone. Ha, typical. No service. I could have guessed that one. I poured another glass of the bourbon, then got up and walked over to the cabinet, turning the flashlight on my phone. I scanned the bottles and picked out another bourbon from the top shelf. My nose was throbbing from the way I fell. It felt like I was running, so I wiped it with the back of my hand. Blood? That's weird. Why was I just now getting a nosebleed? Then I felt it. The vial on my chest started to heat up. It was coming. I heard a shuffling and then a scream from upstairs. I ran up and banged on the locked door, but no one responded. I ran back down the stairs and got on my tiptoes to look out the window. Nothing. The street was empty. A creaking from behind me notified that the basement door was now open. It took her! It took Strips! Orion was on his knees, exclaiming the broken glass from the store's front door. Gregor and I had our backs turned for 1 second and it got her. I walked back into the store, wishing I hadn't taken those gulps of the potent booze. My head was spinning and I felt like I was going to be sick. I put my hands on my head, grabbing my hair, trying to regain stability. Next thing I knew, Gregor was kneeling next to me, shaking me back to consciousness. Are you alright? He asked when I opened my eyes. What the fuck just happened? I asked. My mouth was dry and I still felt like I was going to throw up. You just went down out of nowhere, he replied. Wasn't out of nowhere. It was because the creature was in close proximity. Its energy is still lingering. You'll be affected by it now. Orion didn't even look up when saying this. Strips, I said under my breath, remembering what happened right before I went out. What can I do? Only thing we can do now is go to it. Orion looked over at Gregor, and we meet it in the woods. Sorry guys, I just wanted to post more, but a lot is happening. Please hang in here with me. Wow, that concludes part 2 of a story. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Please do let me know in the comments below. Please do like, share. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to stay up to date with all Dead Man Talking 666 content. We have a lot in store for you in the next few weeks. And once again guys, remember, be safe, not sorry.